The scream cut through Maple Grove Park like a siren. Children froze mid-swing, their laughter dying in their throats as a woman's voice shattered the peaceful Tuesday afternoon. "She's taking them. Oh God, she's taking the children." The voice belonged to Karen Whitfield, her perfectly manicured finger pointing at 17-year-old Sofia Martinez, who stood bewildered beside the monkey bars with her 8-year-old brother Miguel clinging to her side. Sofia's dark eyes widened in confusion as parents across the playground began turning toward her, their faces shifting from curiosity to alarm. The young Latina had been at this park countless times, watching Miguel after school while their mother worked double shifts at the hospital. Today had started like any other homework spread across a picnic table. Miguel's backpack beside her, his juice box half empty in the afternoon sun. "What are you talking about?" Sofia called out, her voice steady, despite the growing knot in her stomach. She instinctively pulled Miguel closer, feeling his small hand grip her jacket. The boy looked up at her with confused brown eyes, sensing the sudden shift in the atmosphere, but not understanding why adults were staring at them with suspicious glances. Karen Whitfield stood near the sandbox, her phone pressed against her ear, her voice rising to a pitch that carried across the entire park. "Yes, 911, I need police immediately at Maple Grove Park. There's a young Hispanic woman here trying to abduct children. She's been talking to them, luring them away from their parents." The accusation hit Sofia like a physical blow. She had been doing nothing more than helping a little girl reach the top of the climbing structure, the same girl whose mother had smiled and thanked her just minutes before. Now that same mother was backing away, pulling her daughter close. Her expression transformed by Karen's poisonous words. "That's completely insane," Sofia said, her voice carrying across the playground. "Miguel is my brother. I come here every day after school." She gestured to their belongings, scattered across the picnic table textbooks, his Pokemon cards, the family photo tucked into her wallet that clearly showed them together. But Karen's words had already taken root. Other parents began converging, their protective instincts triggered by the suggestion of danger to their children. A man in a business suit stepped forward, his jaw set with determination. "Where are your parents? Young lady, why are you here alone with these kids?" "She's not alone with kids." Sofia's voice cracked with frustration. "Miguel is my brother. Our mom is at work. This is normal for us. This is what we do every single day." Karen continued her performance, pacing back and forth while maintaining her grip on the phone. "She approached my grandson earlier, asking him questions about where he lives. That's classic predator behavior. I've watched enough crime shows to know the signs." The lie was so bold, so confidently delivered, that several parents nodded in agreement. Sofia felt the walls closing in around her as more adults formed a loose circle, their children pulled safely behind them. The afternoon sun seemed suddenly harsh, casting sharp shadows across faces that had turned hostile. "I never talked to your grandson," Sofia said, her voice steady, but her hands shaking. "I don't even know who he is. You're making this up." Miguel tugged on her sleeve, his voice small and frightened. "Sofia, why is everyone looking at us like that? What did we do wrong?" The question broke Sofia's heart. Her little brother had never experienced anything like this before the sudden, inexplicable hostility of adults who had always been kind to them. She knelt down to his level, keeping her voice gentle despite the chaos building around them. "We didn't do anything wrong, mijo. This lady is confused, that's all. The police will come and straighten everything out." But even as she said the words, Sofia felt a chill of real fear. She had heard stories, seen news reports about situations like this going terribly wrong. Young people who looked like her, who spoke like her, didn't always get the benefit of the doubt from law enforcement. Karen ended her call with theatrical flair, turning to address the growing crowd of parents. "They're sending units immediately. Thank God someone was paying attention today. You never know what these people are capable of." The phrase "these people" hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Sophia felt the full weight of what was happening. This wasn't just about a misunderstanding or Karen's paranoia. This was about something deeper, uglier, more dangerous. A mother with a toddler on her hip stepped closer to Karen, lowering her voice, but not enough to prevent Sophia from hearing. "I always worry about letting Emma play here. You never know who's watching these days." "Exactly," Karen replied, her eyes never leaving Sophia's face. "These neighborhoods are changing. We have to protect our children from predators, no matter what they look like or where they come from." Sophia stood slowly, keeping Miguel's hand in hers. The circle of adults had tightened, and she realized with growing alarm that she couldn't simply walk away. They were trapped, surrounded by neighbors who had transformed into a vigilante mob, based on nothing more than Karen's fabricated accusations. "Look," Sophia said, trying to keep her voice calm and reasonable. "I understand everyone's concerned about their children. I would be too. But this is a mistake. A big mistake. I can show you my school ID, my library card with this address, pictures of Miguel and me from when he was a baby. We live 3 blocks from here." She reached for her backpack, but the movement caused several adults to step back sharply. The man in the business suit held up his hand like a stop sign. "Don't reach for anything," he said firmly. "Just keep your hands where we can see them until the police arrive." The absurdity of the situation would have been laughable if it weren't so terrifying. Sophia found herself being treated like a dangerous criminal for the crime of being a teenage girl, watching her little brother at a public park. Miguel pressed closer against her leg, his confusion turning to genuine fear as he picked up on the adult's hostile energy. In the distance, sirens began to wail. The sound sent a shock through Sophia's system. This was really happening. Police were actually coming because a woman had pointed at her and screamed "child trafficker," with enough conviction to turn an entire playground against her. Karen straightened her shoulders, clearly pleased with the approaching validation of her actions. "You'll all thank me later," she announced to the gathered parents. "I may have just saved all of our children from something terrible." The first police car arrived within minutes, followed quickly by 2 more. Officers emerged with hands resting casually on their weapons, their eyes scanning the scene for immediate threats. The lead officer, a middle-aged man with graying temples, approached the group with measured steps. "I'm Sergeant Rodriguez," he announced. "We received a call about a possible abduction attempt. Can someone tell me what's going on here?" Karen rushed forward, practically vibrating with excitement. "Thank goodness you're here. This girl has been trying to lure children away from their parents. I saw her talking to my grandson, asking him personal questions. When I confronted her about it, she became defensive and aggressive." Sophia felt her stomach drop. Each word from Karen's mouth was a complete fabrication, but it was delivered with such confidence that even she might have believed it if she weren't living the truth. "That's not what happened," Sophia said, stepping forward but keeping her movement slow and deliberate. "My name is Sofia Martinez. This is my little brother Miguel. We come to this park every day after school. I've never spoken to her grandson or anyone else's child except to help them reach something or answer a simple question." Sergeant Rodriguez looked between Karen and Sophia, his expression neutral but alert. "Do you have identification, miss?" Sophia nodded, reaching slowly for her backpack. "It's in my wallet, along with pictures of Miguel and me, and my school ID that shows I'm a student at Lincoln High." As she pulled out her wallet, Karen's voice rose again. Of course she has fake identification. These trafficking rings are sophisticated operations. They train these kids to have convincing stories. The accusation was so outrageous that Sophia actually laughed, a short, disbelieving sound that seemed to confirm Karen's claims in the minds of some observers. Trafficking rings. Sophia shook her head. Lady, I'm 17 years old. I babysit my brother and do homework. I've never even had detention. Sergeant Rodriguez examined Sophia's identification carefully, then looked at Miguel, who had been silent throughout the exchange. Is this your sister, son? Miguel nodded vigorously. Yes, sir. Sophia picks me up from school every day. Mama works at the hospital until nighttime. So, Sophia takes care of me. We always come here to play after we do homework. The officer's expression softened slightly, but before he could respond, Karen interjected with renewed urgency. Children can be coached to say anything. You can't trust what either of them tells you. I'm telling you, I witnessed suspicious behavior with my own eyes. More parents began speaking up, their voices blending into a cacophony of second-hand accusations and general suspicion. Someone mentioned seeing Sophia talking to various children over the past weeks. Another parent claimed she had always seemed too interested in the kids playing nearby. Sophia felt the ground shifting beneath her feet as the narrative crystallized around Karen's lies. These people were taking fragments of normal, innocent interactions and weaving them into evidence of criminality. A smile and wave became suspicious contact. Helping a child reach monkey bars became inappropriate touching. Every kind gesture was being recontextualized as sinister manipulation. This is insane, Sophia said, her voice beginning to crack with emotion. You're all talking about normal things that happen at a playground every single day. When did helping a kid become a crime? When did being kind become suspicious? But her protests were drowned out by the growing murmur of the crowd. More parents had arrived, drawn by the presence of police cars and the electric atmosphere of drama. The story was spreading, mutating, growing more elaborate with each retelling. Sergeant Rodriguez held up his hand for quiet. I need everyone to step back and let us handle this. Ma'am. He addressed Karen directly. Can you point out your grandson? I'd like to speak with him. For the first time since the incident began, Karen hesitated. Her eyes darted around the playground, scanning the faces of children who were now clustered near their parents, watching the unfolding drama with wide eyes. He left with his mother when this all started, Karen said after a pause. She didn't want him exposed to this kind of situation. The answer was too convenient, too perfectly timed to avoid scrutiny. Sergeant Rodriguez made a note in his pad, his expression revealing nothing. I see. And you witnessed this alleged interaction directly? Absolutely, Karen replied without hesitation. I was sitting right over there on that bench, and I saw everything. She approached him near the swings, started asking him questions about his family, where he lived, what school he went to. Classic grooming behavior. Sophia felt desperation rising in her chest. The lie was so specific, so confidently delivered, that it sounded convincing even to her own ears. I was never near the swings today, she said. Miguel and I went straight to the monkey bars when we arrived, then to the picnic table to do homework. We've been in the same area the whole time. According to who? Karen shot back. You expect us to take your word over the testimony of a concerned grandmother who was simply trying to protect children? The phrase, concerned grandmother, was perfectly calculated, invoking images of maternal wisdom and community protection. Sophia realized with growing horror that she was losing this battle not because Karen was right, but because she was better at manipulating the situation. A second officer approached Sergeant Rodriguez, speaking in low tones that Sophia couldn't quite catch. She saw him glance at her several times during the conversation, and her anxiety spiked higher. "Miss Martinez," Sergeant Rodriguez said finally, "we're going to need you and your brother to come with us for questioning. This is a serious allegation, and we need to investigate it thoroughly." The words hit Sophia like a physical blow. Questioning. I'm 17 years old, and he's 8. You're going to arrest us for playing at a park. Nobody's being arrested, the officer said, though his tone suggested that possibility remained on the table. But we need to sort this out properly, and that means taking statements from everyone involved. Miguel began to cry quiet tears that cut straight through Sophia's heart. Are we in trouble? Sophia, did we do something bad? Before Sophia could answer, Karen's voice rose above the murmur of the crowd. Look at how upset that poor child is. She's probably been threatening him, coaching him to stay quiet about what he's seen. The suggestion was so vile, so completely divorced from reality, that Sophia felt something snap inside her chest. How dare you, she said, her voice carrying across the entire playground. How dare you look at a scared little boy and twist his tears into evidence against the person who loves him most in the world? The crowd fell silent at the raw emotion in Sophia's voice. For a moment, the artificial narrative Karen had constructed seemed to waver, confronted by the undeniable authenticity of Sophia's pain. But Karen recovered quickly, turning Sophia's emotional response into further proof of guilt. See how defensive she gets. How aggressive. This is exactly the kind of manipulative behavior these predators use to control their victims. Sophia realized with crystal clarity that she couldn't win this battle with words. Karen had turned the playground into a courtroom where she was both prosecutor and judge. And every piece of evidence, Sophia's documentation, Miguel's testimony, her own emotional reactions, was being twisted to support a predetermined verdict. As the officers moved to escort them away, Sophia heard a voice from the edge of the crowd. Wait, just a minute. An elderly man was approaching, holding something in his weathered hands. Sophia recognized him as Mr. Chen, who often sat on the far bench reading newspapers while his granddaughter played. He was practically invisible to most people, just another senior citizen spending time at the park. I've been sitting here the whole time, Mr. Chen said, his accented English clear and precise. I saw everything that happened, and this woman is lying. The crowd turned toward him with collective surprise. Karen's face went pale, then flushed red with anger. Who asked you? She snapped. This doesn't concern you. It concerns me when I watch an innocent girl and her little brother get accused of crimes they didn't commit. Mr. Chen replied calmly. He held up a small device, a tablet with a cracked screen. I was video chatting with my son in California. The call has been recording this whole time. The words sent a shock through the assembled crowd. Sergeant Rodriguez stepped forward immediately. Sir, are you saying you have video evidence of today's events? Mr. Chen nodded, his hands steady despite his age. Everything. From when that woman started yelling until right now. The girl never went near the swings. She never talked to any other children except to help one little girl reach the monkey bars, and that child's mother thanked her for it. Karen's face went through a series of rapid transformations: shock, anger, calculation, and finally, desperate denial. That's impossible. He's obviously confused. Or maybe he's working with her. These trafficking operations have lookouts, people who scout locations. But her protests sounded hollow now, desperate rather than authoritative. The crowd began to murmur, sensing a shift in the narrative they had been ready to believe. Sergeant Rodriguez examined Mr. Chen's tablet, watching several minutes of footage with increasing interest. Sophia could see his expression changing as he observed the truth, her normal afternoon with Miguel, Karen's sudden explosion of accusations, the gradual formation of the mob that had surrounded them. "This shows a very different story than what we've been told," the officer said finally. He looked at Karen with new eyes, no longer seeing a concerned grandmother, but recognizing the architect of a dangerous lie. Karen's composure began to crack. "You can't trust some random video. I know what I saw. I'm a pillar of this community, a respected member of the school board. Why would I make something like this up?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Sophia found her voice, strength returning as the truth finally had a chance to emerge. "Because you're angry," Sophia said quietly. "You're angry that families like mine live in this neighborhood now. You're angry that we use the same parks, the same schools, the same spaces you think belong to you." The accusation struck home. Karen's face flushed deeper, and her carefully constructed facade began to crumble. I'm not," she stammered, then rallied with renewed venom. "I don't have to listen to this from some illegal immigrant who probably doesn't even belong in this country." The mask was off now, the ugly truth spilling out for everyone to see. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, many parents realizing for the first time what they had almost participated in. "I was born in San Antonio," Sophia said with quiet dignity. "My mother is a registered nurse who saves lives every day at City General Hospital. My father died serving this country in Afghanistan when I was 12 years old." The words hit the crowd like a slap. Parents, who had been ready to believe the worst about Sophia, now saw her clearly, a teenage girl trying to honor her father's sacrifice by taking care of her family, pursuing her education, and being a responsible big sister. Sergeant Rodriguez turned to his fellow officers. "We need to see that video evidence and take proper statements from all witnesses. And, Mrs. Whitfield," he addressed Karen directly, "you need to understand that filing a false police report is a serious crime." Karen's world was collapsing around her. The parents who had supported her narrative were backing away, uncomfortable with the direction events had taken. Some were actively shaking their heads, clearly ashamed of their participation in the mob mentality. "This is a setup," Karen insisted, her voice rising to a desperate pitch. "They planned this whole thing. The video, the story about her father, it's all manufactured to make me look bad." But nobody was listening to her anymore. The spell she had cast with her false accusations was broken, shattered by the emergence of truth and the revelation of her real motivations. As officers began taking statements from witnesses, a remarkable transformation occurred in the playground. Parents approached Sophia with apologies, their faces red with embarrassment. Children who had been pulled away began returning to their games, the artificial atmosphere of danger dissipating like morning fog. Miguel stopped crying and looked up at his sister with confusion. "So we're not in trouble?" "No, mijo," Sophia said, hugging him close. "We were never in trouble. Some people just forgot how to be kind for a little while." The mother of the little girl Sophia had helped at the monkey bars approached with tears in her eyes. "I am so sorry," she said. "I knew better. I knew you were a good kid, and I still let fear make me stupid." Sophia nodded, accepting the apology with grace. Fear makes people do terrible things sometimes. The important thing is recognizing it and doing better next time. As the investigation continued, more details emerged that painted an even clearer picture of Karen's motivations. Witnesses came forward to describe her previous complaints about those people moving into the neighborhood, Her social media accounts, when examined, revealed a pattern of increasingly inflammatory posts about immigration and community change. The man in the business suit, who had been among the most aggressive in confronting Sophia, approached her with obvious shame. "I need to apologize," he said. "I got caught up in the moment, but that's no excuse. I should have asked questions instead of making assumptions." "We all want to protect our children," Sophia replied. "But we need to be careful not to let that desire turn us into the very danger we're trying to protect them from." The wisdom in her words struck home with many of the adults present. They had come dangerously close to participating in something ugly, something that could have destroyed an innocent family's life, based on nothing more than prejudice and paranoia. Karen was eventually led away in handcuffs, still protesting her innocence, and insisting that she was the real victim. The sight drew no sympathy from the crowd that had once supported her. They had seen too much, learned too much about both her motivations and their own susceptibility to manipulation. In the weeks that followed, the incident became a defining moment for the Maple Grove community. The video of Karen's false accusations went viral, sparking conversations about racism, mob mentality, and the importance of seeking truth before rushing to judgment. Karen faced multiple charges, including filing a false police report, inciting public panic, and hate crime allegations related to her targeting of Sophia based on ethnicity. Her position on the school board was immediately revoked, and several civil rights organizations launched investigations into her previous actions in that role. Sophia became an unexpected symbol of grace under pressure, speaking at community events about the importance of getting to know your neighbors rather than fearing them. She talked about the difference between legitimate safety concerns and prejudice disguised as protection. The Martinez family received an outpouring of support from their community. Miguel's teacher arranged for a special recognition ceremony honoring their father's military service. The hospital where their mother worked established a scholarship in his name for children of fallen veterans. Mr. Chen became something of a local hero. His quick thinking and courage in speaking up, preventing a massive injustice. He began volunteering with a local organization that taught digital literacy to seniors, empowering others to use technology as a tool for truth and justice. The playground at Maple Grove Park was eventually renamed the Truth and Reconciliation Playground, with a plaque commemorating the importance of community unity and the courage required to stand up for what's right. Sophia continued her daily routine of picking up Miguel from school and bringing him to the park. But now their presence was welcomed rather than merely tolerated. Other families made efforts to include them, to learn their names, to understand their story. On warm afternoons, when the sun slanted through the oak trees and children's laughter filled the air, Sophia would sometimes think about that terrible day when fear almost triumphed over truth. She would watch Miguel play with friends of all backgrounds and colors, and feel hope for a future where such incidents became impossible rather than inevitable. The incident had revealed ugly truths about prejudice and mob mentality, but it had also demonstrated the power of one person standing up for what's right. Mr. Chen's intervention had prevented a tragedy, but more importantly, it had created an opportunity for genuine community healing. Karen's sentencing included not only jail time and fines, but hundreds of hours of community service working with immigrant families and attending cultural sensitivity training. The judge made it clear that her actions had gone far beyond a simple mistake. They had represented a deliberate attempt to weaponize fear and prejudice against innocent people. During the community service portion of her sentence, Karen was required to hear the stories of families like the Martinez family. She learned about the challenges faced by immigrants and children of immigrants, the sacrifices made by parents working multiple jobs, the dreams held by young people trying to build better lives. Whether this exposure changed Karen's heart remained to be seen, but it certainly changed her behavior. She could no longer claim ignorance about the impact of her words and actions on real families trying to live their lives with dignity. For Sophia, the incident became a defining moment in her journey toward adulthood. She had faced down a mob, stood up for her family, and emerged with her integrity intact. The experience taught her about the power of truth, the importance of allies, and the responsibility that comes with survival. Years later, when Sophia graduated as valedictorian of her high school class, she would speak about that day in Maple Grove Park. She would talk about the difference between safety and suspicion, between protection and prejudice, between community and division. Her speech would bring the audience to tears, including several parents who had been present that day and who had spent years working to make amends for their participation in the mob mentality. They had learned, through Sophia's example and their own reflection, that true community safety comes not from excluding others, but from including them. The playground continued to thrive as a space where children of all backgrounds played together, where parents formed genuine friendships across cultural lines, and where the lessons of that terrible day served as a permanent reminder of both humanity's capacity for ugliness and its potential for redemption. On quiet evenings, when the park was nearly empty and the setting sun painted everything golden, Sophia would sometimes sit on the bench where Mr. Chen had witnessed the truth. She would think about the power of being seen, really seen, by someone willing to speak up when it mattered most. The incident had taught the entire community that truth and justice require active participation. They cannot survive in the passive silence of good people who choose not to get involved. They require courage, commitment, and the willingness to stand up even when standing up is difficult. As Sophia prepared for college and began thinking about her future career, she carried with her the knowledge that individual actions could change the world in profound ways. One person's lie had nearly destroyed her family, but one person's truth had saved them. The choice between those two responses was always available, always consequential, always important. The playground at Maple Grove Park became more than just a place for children to play. It became a symbol of community healing, of the possibility for growth after conflict, of the way truth could emerge even from the darkest moments of prejudice and fear. And every day, as children climbed monkey bars and swung on swings and played games that knew no boundaries of race or ethnicity or background, they were living proof that Karen's vision of division had failed. They were evidence that love, truth, and community could triumph over hate, lies, and fear. The park incident became a story told and retold, a cautionary tale about the dangers of mob mentality, and a hopeful story about the power of truth. It reminded everyone who heard it that in any moment of crisis, each person faces a choice to be part of the problem or part of the solution, to spread fear or to seek truth, to divide or to unite. Sophia Martinez and her little brother Miguel continued to visit Maple Grove Park every day after school. But now, they did so as celebrated members of a community that had learned, through pain and reflection, the true meaning of belonging. Their presence was no longer questioned or feared, but welcomed and valued. The incident had changed everyone involved, but perhaps most importantly, it had changed the community itself. Maple Grove had looked into the mirror of its own prejudices and chosen to become something better. The transformation wasn't easy or immediate, but it was real and lasting. In the end, Karen's attempt to divide the community had actually united it in ways that might never have been possible otherwise. Her lie had forced everyone to confront uncomfortable truths about bias and fear, and in doing so, had created opportunities for genuine understanding and growth. The playground stood as a testament to the possibility of redemption, not just for individuals, but for entire communities willing to face their failures and commit to doing better. It was a place where children played and parents watched, where differences were celebrated rather than feared, where the lessons of one terrible day had blossomed into countless better days. And at the center of it all was the simple truth that Sophia had spoken from the beginning. They were just a sister and brother, doing homework and playing at the park, living their lives with hope and dignity in a community they now knew truly accepted them as their own.